Well, hello, that's me again. Today is June 13th, the Thursday. Thank God it's not Friday, right? Let's talk a little bit about something which usually gets ignored to a large degree about the issue of the operational art and strategy. But before we start, we will go and take a look at these pictures, which created, well, kind of understandably. This is anybody who tells you that this is Caribbean crisis or Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0, don't believe them. It is a regular visit. Obviously, Russians demonstrate flag and they send a message. But the point is nobody is going to attack U.S. territory, but as was announced earlier, so both Kazan and guided missile submarine and Admiral Gorshkov frigate, they kind of entered the port of Havana. As you can see yourself, this is obviously a very, very disturbing for the U.S. Navy view or the shot, photo of Kazan entering Havana. And of course, yeah, this is kind of almost surreal to look at that, because obviously what you see here is the most advanced submarine in the world, and it's striking power in terms of the cruise missiles dwarfs anything the United States has. I mean, obviously, Virginia's carry all those, iterations of the Tomahawks, but Tomahawk is nowhere near of, in its capability to what Kazan carries, be them caliber long-range missiles with 3M14M caliber M having the range of 4,500 kilometers, which is twice long as any Tomahawk. And of course, we're talking about the most important type of weapons, which are anti-shipping P-800 Onyx missiles with a range in excess of 800 kilometers, and they're supersonic, and of course hypersonic 1500 kilometers range Zircon, which simply just not interceptable. There is nothing out there, with the exception of Russian air defense complexes, which can intercept it. So as you understand, US Navy and US Coast Guard have been all in arms, so to speak, which is normal procedure. Make no mistake. Obviously, United States considers the Caribbean part of its, so to speak, operational near, and they are having, a couple of destroyers. There are probably a couple of Virginias, lurking everywhere. They obviously have the P-8 Poseidons and all other types of the patrol aviation, hanging out there, which is understandable. They also desperately want to get the acoustic and other physical fields signature from Kazan, which is Project 885 Yasin class submarines. It's natural, so just breathe calmly. There is no Cuban missile crisis. There is, however, a message, as I already stated, and this is also a message in terms of not just Cuba, but physical geographic vicinity of course, Venezuela, the country with the largest, confirmed reserves of crude. So there you go. Just, make it out, whatever you want out of it. So, of course, in other news, we have this situation that United States continues to, impose all kinds of sanctions. Russians don't care, really. I mean, it's difficult to explain to people from, Washington that it doesn't matter. So Russia hit by new sanction, halves dollar and euro trade on main bourse. Yeah, new year sanctions against Russia have forced an immediate suspension of trading in dollar and euros on its leading financial marketplace, the Moscow Exchange. So what? Yeah, there was a spike a little bit yesterday in speculation, and then everything calmed down, because really most of the dollar and euro exchanges, as reported by Russia's finance ministry and central bank, are now done outside of the stock exchanges anyway, and yeah, it just also merely on the level of the banks. Just to give you example, last year when I was in Russia, I went to exchange a few $100, in the Sberbank. It's a major Russian savings bank. I mean, millions upon millions of people have their accounts there. So I come in and, get, those dollars because, yes, Sberbank, as many other banks, they, just buy currency. And she looks at my dollars and she says, okay, I'll exchange this and that, and then she returns 200s to me, say, nah, these are not good enough, they're kind of not as nice as we want them to be. So that tells you something. She didn't want even to accept, which actually totally normal $100 bills, and, well, she didn't accept it. She said, yeah, well, nobody's going to buy it from me. That tells you something which you have to know. And that's what they do not understand, those people in, State Department and Commerce Department of the United States and in financial institutions, that dollar is not much relevant in Russia, so they can impose whatever they want. So, and that's probably another those moments when they have to recognize how impotent they all are. And if that hasn't been enough, so we have this situation. So the guy, the hero, the Nazi leader, which of course they lie, as always, in Washington and London, he goes to Saudi Arabia for unannounced visit. There you go. So, you know what? Hey, guys, somebody send me your address. I will visit you unannounced, and let's see your face expressions. So there just literally imposes himself. He landed city of Jeddah for an unannounced trip and was greeted by Saudi officials. Yeah, he was basically met by MBS, and whatever was told and exchanged between them, I don't know. But the guy, at least he wears some kind of the different shirt, if you wish. So what can I say? That tells you everything you need to know, because obviously as we all know, the situation with this Swiss peace conference deteriorates dramatically, and nobody of any import really goes there. And the only thing they wanted to do there was, of course, to confirm the legitimacy of Mr. Zelensky. Well, he feels that he's not going to be confirmed there, because when you have the Minister of the Social Affairs attending this peace conference, as for example Australia sends the guy, so you're not going to get much weight, pizzazz, so to speak, so, and it's comedy, obviously, if not for the tragedy of which is happening with Ukraine. But then again, as I already stated in the few other videos previously, people have to understand what Ukraine is, and sadly, what Ukrainian population is. They wanted it. Many people still do not understand. And this is, you have to reiterate this point. Majority of Ukrainians wanted this war. They truly believed that they can beat Russia, and they can, bring civilization to Russians, because as you all know, Russians, after all, Western leaders speak about it. Russians don't know what microchips are. They don't understand what toilets are. So there you go. Moscow, they probably still have dirt roads and things of this nature in other Russian cities. But hey, what do I know, So, and just to demonstrate to you what is happening right now in terms of sanctions, they want to impose sanctions on the IT. All right, here it is. Russians who are waiting in the wings, gladly and, joyfully rubbing their hands. And guess what? Here's one example. This is S-board. It's a Russian online whiteboard for business. Guess what? They said, good, we want these damn IT companies which produce pretty much bunch of all those services, out of Russia. Because guess what? We have our solutions which are ready, and they're in no way inferior. This is just one demonstration of it. So, no matter what they try to do, it doesn't matter anymore for them. And in the horrendous, actually, summary of the yesterday, here's we have the officially confirmed losses by Russian Defense Ministry. And as you can see yourself, the number grows every day, ever slightly. that military personnel killed and wounded is 1,835 of the armed forces of Ukraine. So you can easily put this number as KIAs and MIAs only, with probably multiplying by 2, which gives you the overall number of the killed and wounded. And as I already stated, every day Russia erases 1 brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine from the battle or order of battle. So as you can see yourself, we have the 7 tanks, 41 armored vehicles, 40 artillery pieces and mortars, while 61 UAVs, 3 MLRS destroyed. So, and this is a slaughter. And again, make no mistake, I have to admit that, Mr. Zelensky was the product of the desires of Ukrainians, and you don't understand what was when many people say that he was a peace candidate. He wasn't a peace candidate. He promised peace, some kind of peace, but majority of the Ukrainian population wanted the peace after subjugating and essentially, ethnically cleansing Donbass. That was the condition of the peace they wanted. Well, guess what? Doesn't work like this anymore. So, and just a few days ago, I showed you the situation around Lipsy. Now we have the situation in Sumi. It's yesterday, as you can see yourself, Russians penetrated more than 2 kilometers inside the Sumi region, and this is Rzhevka village, which have been taken, and operations continue. And again, many people still do not understand, because, well, Western military people at the top, they are not very really literate militarily. It is all about stretching the remaining reserves of the armed forces of Ukraine and demilitarizing whatever the weapons are being sent to them and killing off the rest of the reserves. This is simple as that. So now we have a new operational axis in Sumi, and you know what? They are desperately now trying to move all those reserves, whatever the meager reserves, while trying to refill, so to speak, the horrendous, losses they sustain. Now, when people say that they do it willingly today, no, not today. A year ago, yeah, they believed in those BS, and there was a lot of very many willing people who wanted to participate in defeating Russians, taking Moscow and running them to the Ural Mountains. Today, if you go and take a look at videos, and many of you have all those resources to go and take a look, not only on the YouTube, which primarily, filters out most of the time, but you can go to all kinds of Rumble, all kinds of Telegram channels videos, and you will see yourself. Ukrainian cities, streets are empty. Literally, nobody isn't there. It's eerie. And this is, as you understand, why? Because obviously the desire to fight Ruskies is not anymore there. They understand. Between people, they are in panic, they are in paranoia. They know that once you captured, which you will be captured, including hunted by the dogs, and sent to front, it's one-way ticket. You're gonna get killed most of the time. Sometimes you're gonna get maimed to such a degree that you wish you have been dead. So this is the situation. And now going back to the issue of strategy and operational art, let's take a look at something which was very interesting. I definitely read all kinds of the, those egghead military magazines. I have to, so because if I don't want to turn into David X, for example, and here it is. Parameters, which is the U.S. Army War College, fairly serious publication. The latest issue, so to speak, is the issue of the June, which is partially dedicated, which is expected, to the Russian situation with, special military operation. And here we have Colonel Michael Kelly. who writes the article about understanding Russian disinformation and how the joint force can address it. And in abstract, Russia will dominate information warfare if the United States does not treat disinformation as central to Russian strategy. This article examines the vital role disinformation played in post-Cold War Russian strategy, including its strategy in the current Russia-Ukraine war, and its departure from previous scholarship. This article observes that U.S. defense leaders are aware of Russian disinformation, but have failed to assess its impact or sufficiently negate Russian influence. Michael Kelly then he proceeds to explain why this happened, but let me put it this way. The problem with Michael Kelly, as it is the problem with every single American officer, be them from the Army, be them from the Air Force, be them from Navy, is the fact that they still do not understand what joint force is. You can read, for example, as he states, Russian disinformation. He reads about how you can actually write the documents, and he mentions the documents which are, of course, field manuals which speak about it. And the problem is neither American officer, none, understand what is going on. There is simply no understanding of the nature of this special military operation, of which I will be talking about. But here is one thing which they do not understand. Russians have an extremely effective misinformation strategy because it is primarily based on the facts. Unlike it is the lies which are basically inscribed into the practically much modus operandi of every single current American institution, from media to army, which basically invades and confabulates its history. The whole history of US Army is invented. They are, showing the glorious, victories in Vietnam or glorious victories in Afghanistan as some kind of achievement. You have the whole generation of the officers, from the generals and admirals to some, lieutenant, that do not understand what it means to win the war, and especially to win the war against the enemy, which will not only outshoot you, it will outrange you and will smash your forces even before you're beginning to kind of, build yourself into the whatever battalion or company columns to attack something. These guys don't understand what real war is. They have a bunch of those so-called advisors which try to learn how you have to survive under the fire impact of the long-range fires, but they still not gonna learn much. They will try. That's what they do constantly, and I will talk about this. So, and just to demonstrate to you how they fight Russian misinformation, here is Bloomberg. Bloomberg, this is, you call it misinformation. Here we have Bloomberg lied about Russia forcing African students to fight against Ukraine. Nigeria. Report that Moscow is forcing thousands of foreign students, including some from Nigeria, to fight alongside Russian troops against Ukraine in exchange for visa extensions are false, the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Tuesday. Here is the statement by Nigerian Foreign Ministry. And it's dismisses as false reports on the conscription of the Nigerian students by Russia in exchange for visa renewal. Signed Ambassador Eshe Abu Obe, spokesperson, Minister of the Foreign Affairs of Nigeria, Tuesday, 11th June 2024. And now you have to understand, that's what I'm talking about. This is why, for example, this Michael Kelly, he has no clue about what he is writing, apart from the fact that United States doesn't have joint force. It's all, all those confabulations, that, oh my God, we can do it. No, you can't. Because to have the joint force, you have to have general staff. And you have to have general staff as the main organ of the operational control of the actions of the armed forces, including, by the way, developing also the issue of the armaments program, making strategic assessments and this like that. American military machine doesn't have general staff. They wouldn't know how to handle it anyway. They have the operational command reduced, removed to the level of the operational commands. and they do not know what it means to really operate really jointly when you have all three services, essentially, Army, Navy, and Air Force, having their own operational procedures which are not harmonized. Well, Joint Chiefs of Staff obviously try to do this, but yeah, the only thing which is left for them is to write some kind of the guidance on the misinformation, which is Russian misinformation, as they say. The problem is they continue to lie through the teeth, and they produce copious amount of lies, and they don't even understand what they're dealing with. So, and that is why, as the situation with Nigerian recruits, so to speak, is they are debunked all those lies practically within days. So if they think so that they are that smart on that, well, let me tell you this way. They always thought that they are better than everybody else at everything. No. United States right now, large second-tier force which is stuck with the TOE and operational concepts in 1990s. And those people don't even understand. They cannot comprehend it. Well, some do. And some of them, like, Colonel McGregor, they might still, invent things from World War II. But the United States didn't win World War II. If not for the Soviet Union, it wouldn't have been even able to resist what was coming. God forbid, of course, if Hitler would have the access to Soviet resources. But hey, whatever, they just, that's their way of fighting misinformation with the misinformation. Doesn't work like these guys. So we have then this situation. Parameters obviously begins to explain the combat path, sustaining mental readiness in Ukrainian soldiers. So they have bunch of the people in the, with the psychological and psychiatry degrees, and some of them from Ukrainian unit, whatever, which deals with the issue of mental health, which is not there of Ukrainians. And so here they talk about the combat path sustaining mental readiness in Ukrainian soldiers. Okay, their headline itself is already absolutely funny. It's, as I already stated, it would have been funny if it would have been so sad. And as you can see yourself, you have Oleg Hukovsky, Oleg Boyko, people from Ukrainian armed forces, where United States armed forces learn absolutely nothing, and they just, how to put it politely, they do not understand one fundamental thing. And this is what I will explain now. So they talk about that relentless exposure to warfare's ongoing demands endangers Ukrainian soldiers' mental health, which can interfere with their mental readiness to continue fighting. Seriously? So as defined, so they go to the U.S. Army Field Manual 7-22, as defined in Holistic Health and Fitness, U.S. Army Field Manual, mental readiness or the capacity to adapt successfully in the presence of risk and adversity can help soldiers manage severe stress and grow mentally tougher in the process. Well, we know how it all worked out brilliantly when we have actually, I don't remember how many American veterans commit suicide every day. And believe me, those guys, they didn't go through what Ukrainian soldiers go through every day, which is debilitating fire impact, which make their wars, so to speak, in Iraq or Afghanistan, stroll in the park. It is chicken feed. It's nothing. And so they continue to explain, they continue to pretend, the holistic, scholastic thing, and they begin to explain the Ukrainian context. The relationship between Ukraine and Russia must be considered to understand the current war's context. Ukraine gained independence following 1990 revolution in Granite, blah, 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 blah. And they, although independent, the political, social, and economic boundaries between Ukraine and Russia remain somewhat blurred, and people on both sides of the border continue to regard the two countries' fates as inextricable. Well, yeah, that's sort of right, but obviously the fundamental thing, when they begin to, wax, academic about all this conflict, let me explain why all American concepts, be that, for example, ISR and C2, which United States and NATO, well, those pipsqueaks from London also try to do it, well, they impose all those things on Ukrainians and try to run it as if they were running some kind of video game. Let me explain what they don't get. And this is metaphysical, and this is what is called collective subconscious. United States, including American officers, none of them, none, zero, none exist, do not understand what continental warfare is, because none of them ever fought in defense of their country. None. They don't know what it is. And this remove this psychological, cultural, social, mental framework. What do you have? You have a guy who actually went through all those police operations, kicking doors in the third world crap holes, and he tries to advise some people who fought for 1,000 years defending their country. They have no clue what it is. Give me, the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He wouldn't be able to communicate on this issue. They don't understand it. Give me the most, degraded credential dude who commanded something, H.R. McMaster, remember? He commanded a regiment. The guy has no clue. They don't. None of them do. Well, some do. When they begin to actually go what is called not native, but going and getting into the Russian culture. None of the American officers ever read War and Peace. They do not even understand what it is. And so they do not understand that Russians do not fight with Ukrainians. And this is the thing which they continue to write and on and on and on, that this is Russian-Ukrainian war, which is of course completely false. It's BS. This is what they do in terms of the so-called psychological operations and information operations. They spread BS, and they do not understand fundamental thing which is described in the strategists who are actually of the global repute and import, especially now that you have to understand the nature of war. And there is not a single war in which U.S. military in the last, roughly 80 plus years understood it. They don't have the capacity, mental and, academic, what have you. So as the result, you have this situation. They write some pseudo-academic BS, while in reality, the same month of June, we have the issue of Russian Ministry of Defense military thought. And guess what? Look at this. How interesting. As you can see yourself, number 6, 2024. And they talk about a modern info hybrid war against Russia, strategies, narratives, and technologies. And so they say the paper interprets the concept of info hybrid warfare, examines the place and the role of the information factor in hybrid warfare against Russia. The authors analyze the hostile strategy of the info hybrid warfare, the set of non-lethal forms and methods of influence. And here they literally discuss why, while definitely dangerous, there's always a bunch of the morons who will, which United States continues to recruit, and they want them to commit terrorist acts against civilian population. Again, most of those people there, who sit there, I'm talking about top brass. It doesn't mean necessarily that all people who are there are bad people, but very many are. They are terrorists by nature. They wouldn't, because they are, cowards. They do not want to fight Russia directly. They can't. They will be annihilated. So the United States resorts to what it always did. Either, imperial wars of conquest against the weak enemies, or, in indirect strategies, something like that. And Russian, military thought talks about it. They are afraid. And there is a very interesting notion which when speaking in the same issue of the military thought, look what they talk about when they write about the new military threats and dangers for Russian Federation. Look how they define, which is, and don't give me that I am, somehow a Russian and I try to push this. Russian strategic assessment institutions today are the best in the world, period. There's nothing which, you read yourself everything what is produced, or the output of all those London and Washington think tanks. It's pathetic. However, look what the military thought speaks about. Because of that, the events in Crimea and Syria became for the United States and not NATO a deadly geopolitical strike, after which the only thing they left is to revenge. not today and in the future. So, and yeah, they talk about those primarily terrorist threats. They will try to kill people. They will try to eliminate political leaders and things of this nature, because that's the only thing they know how to do. You look today at the US Army, you look today at the NATO as a force, and this fluffy rhetoric about, escalation. Escalation with what? With 15,000 of the kamikaze, foreign legion French? As my friend Vladimir Truhan says, and he knows about the war a little bit more than even Joint Chiefs of Staff, when he says about that, just to move regiment, you need 189 rail cars. Do you understand what it means? So there you go. Can you imagine moving a division? And can you imagine, as even Mr. McGregor says, moving the column of the Abrams latest versions of tanks, because Russians can see it from space, because in infrared. So that's everything you need to know. So, and they will continue to do what they do always, hide behind somebody's backs. Because each time United States went out to try to fight some war, even against this extremely inferior, supremely inferior enemy, it's all ended up badly, because they don't know how to fight a real war of this scale. And as I already stated, when they have those so-called counter operations, to counter allegedly Russian information, they better start learning the real facts on the ground, starting from the World War II. Because the way it goes, they just lied themselves into this complete mental oblivion, and they can come up with whatever definitions of their, for example, cognitive dissonance. But again, average American officer and average American top brass officer has no clue about World War II. They do not even understand how operations have been conducted, because they have this perverted picture of numbers and statistics, which is, for a person even with the basic understanding of mathematics and counting methods, is a complete baloney, absurdity. Yet they believe in it. They base their field manuals and operational and strategic documents, doctrinal documents, based on that. Simple as that. And that is what I wanted to tell you guys today about. And as always, in the end, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please guys support me, on Patreon, or buy me a coffee and two. And in conclusion, for people who do not understand simply why I speak fast. No, it is not because I drank like 20 ounces lattes in the morning. No, I drink only one. The problem here is that the subject matter I treat usually, I try to treat them professionally, but also in terms of their form and, so to speak, appearance, which is easily, comprehended and accepted by, lay people. Because what I do here, I don't do it just for the professionals. I do it for regular folks who want to know, situation. Because of that, I need to pack quite a bit of information which is relevant, germane, which gives some more or less understanding of the issue. But, it's 35 minutes most, and I have to pack much. And as a result, I speak, relatively fast. Those who complain, we live in the 21st century, it is 2024. You go to the YouTube, you choose the settings and speed, go to the 0.75, and you will hear everything the way you want it to hear. So that's it, guys. Have a nice, the rest of the week. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.